in the Europa League on Independence Live. All the build-up and reaction to Rangers in the Europa League on Independence Live.
There we go. Final score from Ibrox. It was Rangers 0, Atletico Bilbao 0. And if you're wondering why we're a bit late, well, there was 12 minutes added on at the end of that game, and there was a lot of incident in the second half where we'll get to as well. Before we start the show, well, welcome back to Robbie, and Reagan will be joining us as well. Before we get into the show, let's hope Barry Rice is okay. He get carried off injured during the second half, and that's why they had about 12 minutes Aggie gone at the end of the game. I hope he's kind of like okay. So yeah, so on to the game then. As I said, now Ibrox in the first leg of the quarterfinal. And I think if you were a Rangers fan, you would be happy with that performance tonight.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, first of all, condolences to Bailey. Rice, I hope he's all right. He looked in a lot of pain before he got stretchered off, and obviously took a while. So, I hope he's all right. But Rangers fans should be delighted with, the 0-0 gone away to Athletic Club. We said on the preview, Rangers need to try and stay in the game. And I thought they'd done that superbly. I thought, especially in the first half, I don't think Athletic Club really put too much pressure on them. I actually was surprised with how flat both William brothers were, gone both flanks. And look, I'm excited to hear what Reagan has to say about Liam Kelly, because obviously he doubted him before the game. Obviously, I thought about him a Butland, but wow, what a performance for Liam Kelly. I mean, the double save in the first half, saving the penalty, and the second, it was a really good game for Kelly. But look, as you said, Rangers fans should be delighted with a 0-0 gone away to Spain.
Yeah, and I'll get this question out of the way, Robbie, first. Rangers fans will be coming away from Ibrox delighted, but they'll be thinking to themselves, why have they not performed like that for most of the season?
I think that's a question on every Rangers fan's mind, to be honest. They can do it on the European stage, we know this, but it's performances like that where, they dig in, where early on in the game, only it was, I think, about 13 minutes proper get sent off. For the rest of that game, they had to dig in and make sure they were solid defensively, and they done it quite well. But then you look at last weekend's game against Hibs, where they got open so easily defensively, and you're thinking, that is a completely different Rangers backline.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the first half then, Robbie. Rangers had a few chances before Proper get sent off. Cherny had a shot, and I think you kind of like Theg in the pre-show that he's going to be a key man for Rangers tonight. It was a bit quiet in the second half, I thought, as well. But I mean, and then let's get to the singing off then, because everybody's talking about then. Proper gets sent off. Red card for you, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a massive fan of Ali McCoy. I think the commentary does in some games is superb, but I could not believe he thought that wasn't a red card. That is such an obvious decision to me. The boy, the Athletic Bilbao boy, is through on goal. Proper takes him out. I mean, I think McCoy was trying to argue the point that he's no through on goal, but for me, he's going to get a shot off if he gets past Robin Proper. So, for me, it's a stonewall red card. I cannot believe people think that isn't a red.
Yeah, it basically, I mean, I don't know about you, right? But when you see the replay about 5 times, I don't know why he didn't see this injure the player. Obviously, it wasn't had no intention in doing that. But I mean, every time you saw that, it looked kind of bad, And you're right. I think the boy was going to get a shot away. Whether it would score or not, that's a different matter. As well. But I mean, it was a red card, kind of like all day long to in the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It does look a sore one on the Athletic Club boy. I think I don't even think there's necessarily a need for Proper to dive in at that moment. To be honest, I think if he stands his ground, even if the Athletic Club player gets past him, if you bring him down, I mean, I heard them arguing the point. I think it was Gordon Dale, Mark Wilson, and Super Scobo. I think they were arguing the point that even if he get past him and they bring him down for a penalty, you'd rather keep him on the park and concede a penalty than get a red card and have to play the rest of the game with 10 men because, they would have probably been wanting Proper available for next week as well over in Spain. That as much as we've maybe come on the show and said, a few times that he's not the most reliable defender, I think that I think that he still would have been a useful man. So I do agree it was a stonewall red card, but I just cannot believe a lot of Rangers men. I mean, particularly McCoist. I could not believe what he was like on commentary. He was very vocal and thinking it wasn't a record.
Good evening to Leo. He's watching the show on YouTube. Don't forget you can comment on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X as well. Good evening to Leo. As I said, he says he will take that. We'll take that 0-0 after 90 minutes, and you would say that it's half time in the tie, the second half. The second game, sorry, as Mitch Weekend will be on for that one as well. Yeah, I think like if you ask any Rangers fan, you would I think that you would think it had push for any of them to say, yeah, we'll take a 0-0 because the way that Rangers has been performing the last couple of weeks, or maybe all season.
Yeah, I think Rangers overall will be happy with that 0-0. I think there was a few chances that went a begging. I go back the first half and I think Dessers had a header off a free kick. For me, that's an open header. He's got to do much better with that. We spoke about in the pre-show about Cyril Dessers. He needs to take chances if he gets them. And for me, that's one of the chances in the match for me. I actually think that's very good. Obviously, we can get into the Athletic Bilbao chance where the boys, tapped it across the box and he's got a tap in and he misses. But for me on the Rangers end, that's a really good chance for Dessers. But look, as you said, they'll be happy with a 0-0. That keeps them in the tie, going away to Spain, where they'll actually, be able to have 11 players for the start and hopefully keep 11 players on the pitch. But I think all Rangers fans should be happy with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, just come back to the red card incident as well. But see, when you actually see it again, obviously it's brilliant in hindsight if you see the replays a lot. But Proper didn't need to dive in. I don't know what it was. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, I didn't think I had to dive in either. When you first see it, you sort of look and go, all right, he's caught him a bit. That'll probably be a yellow card. But the minute I see it, I think that's last man. Williams is going to get a shot away. That, for me, is everything in the rule book for a red card. I mean, I'd love to know why someone like McCoist doesn't think that's a red card. They didn't explain it too well on commentary. But I'd like to see why, because for me that falls under the definition of denying a goal scoring opportunity. Which for me it's I think Athletic Bilbao with Williams' quality probably scores that if he gets through on goal. So for me it's a stonewall record.
Rob, I don't know about you, Robbie, but this is one of the shows that I wish Des was on, not because that he can't hear us, but to get his take on the ref tonight. I mean, I thought obviously we'll get into the Atletico Bilbao goal penalty saved by Liam Kelly, but I thought the ref was okay tonight. It wasn't brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think he was brilliant, but I also don't think he got anything wrong in retrospect. I don't think anything in the game was the wrong decision for the referee. I thought he got a red card spot on. And I honestly, I think he had a decent night. It's one of the better refereeing performances I've seen, put it that way. And trust me, we watch a lot of Scottish football. We know some pretty poor refereeing performances when we see them.
Well, I was going to say that, say this is one of us quiet night, but in saying that, he should have scored.
Yeah, Dessa should at least had a goal tonight. I go back to that free kick. I can't remember who had it. I think it might have been Shirley. I can't remember.
Germany, yeah.
And it comes to Dessers, and he's got so much time. And I think Ali said it on commentary. I think Rory said, it doesn't see it coming, and Ali said that's the problem, and it is. That's the problem with Cyril Dessers. He doesn't see these balls coming into the box when he's got open headers. That realistically any striker looking at that should be looking to score. So it should have had at least one tonight. But look, I think Rangers would just be happy Athletic Bilbao never scored, because with the threat that they had, that, to be honest, it was a quite quiet night for Athletic Club.
Yeah, I mean, reading my notes here, I thought they only had a few decent shots in the first half. Williams had a few shots to go in the first half, and but all of Atletico Bilbao's shot was kind of like high and wide. I mean, take your chances. Like if the ball was kind of lowered, it would have been different.
Yeah, I mean, look, on another night, that probably finishes about 3-4-2 Bilbao. On another night, players take their chances. It was that game. But as I said earlier, I thought both William brothers, especially, I think it was Nico on the left, I thought he had a particularly poor game. I don't think I remember Nico Williams particularly doing too much, to be honest. It was more, it felt like to me, Athletic Club looked at that and targeted that sort of left-hand side, where Yilmaz and Balogun was. I thought that's what they maybe targeted during the game, because every attack came for down that right-hand side. And Anaki was getting so many chances in their box, but they were so wasteful tonight. I was surprised.
We said on the show as well that Barry Ferguson and Leo Balogun was saying that we had a meeting this week. Now, I don't know about you, but I never saw any differences compared to when they didn't have the meeting. I think the only difference I saw in the Rangers' performance tonight was more a fight. And I don't know why you have to have a meeting to say that we need more fight in the team. But there was certainly more fight tonight.
Yeah, I think tonight you could see instantly how much better Rangers were defensively, which sounds a bit mental because obviously they had the red card. But to me, if you take that performance defensively to the Hibs performance, for me it's night and day. Rangers looked 100 times better defensively than they ever did against Hibs once. It seems to be when it's getting tough, nitty gritty stage, with a dropping men back. I mean, the BBC put on a picture that it was an average position of every Rangers player just on half time. I mean, if you look at this map, it is very obvious how defensively Rangers are. When they need to defend like this and counter attack, they almost seem to play better, which is odd because usually we see Rangers and Celtic playing better when they have the ball, but maybe this Rangers team are set up better for a counter attacking style of play.
Maybe they should get to play every Rangers game at night time now, Robbie, because they seem to cope better. It's not because we've got what. Well, I was going to say it's not because we've got warm weather, but I suppose in the past week that we've had sunny and nice weather here. But I think for next season, I think Rangers game should be 8:00 every night.
Yeah, we talk about league reconstruction. Let's change it to the Thursday night league, and let's just put Rangers on every Thursday because they're actually probably won by a country mile. That's how good they're on Thursdays.
I know you're like watching the darts in Fusky, Robbie, but you might be watching Rangers next season instead of the darts.
I'll sacrifice the darts for a Thursday night Rangers performance.
Here's Liam Kelly's supporters club It's Reagan. How are you, Reagan?
I'm not bad, Michael. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Usually I bit of humble pie in the show, but tonight it's all yours,
Oh,
mate. About Liam Kelly. Take it away.
I was glad to see that he saved a penalty. I was flicking through all the games tonight, to be honest with you, Michael. I was flicking through Man United, Rangers, Spurs. It was a good night. Enjoyed myself. But for Rangers to keep out a Athletic Bilbao team eh, after getting a man sent off after 12 minutes. I don't know what you guys have said on the red card, but I did think it was a red card. Did think it was a red, Robbie. I don't know about yourself, Robbie. But
Reagan, I can't believe Ali McCoy thinks it wasn't a red. I said that to Michael earlier. That's for me is an absolute stonewaller red card.
yeah, it's a red all day.
I think Michael said it. Proper doesn't even need to dive in like that. I don't know what he's thinking.
I just don't. Like, as soon as I seen it, I went, think it could be, and then I turned it over to check the score in another match, and then I turned it back on and it said red card Rangers, and I'm thinking, the common sense has prevailed. But I turned it over, Robbie, and it was they were showing you the Rangers Atletico Bilbao scored, but then they were checking for all these different things. They were checking for a
Yeah,
handball. They were checking for a penalty. They were checking offside.
I,
I don't know what you guys thought about
yeah, they seem to check everything. It was a bit of a mess. I managed to listen to after the game as well. Chris Boyd trying to sum it up, and even he didn't have a clue what to say on the situation. It was bizarre. They had the goal in the net, and then I think they checked offside straight after that. And then they checked a penalty, and when they went to check the penalty, I was just sitting there going, "What is going on here?" But no, look, again, you mentioned it earlier, Reagan. It was terrific save for Liam Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Reagan, we had a comment there for Leo, and he says that he would take 0-0 at the beginning of the night, but I think
that. Definitely, and I think Robbie said that earlier. He said that he would take a 1-0 defeat. I think Bilbao, as I said, they've got tricky wingers and their striker's a good player, but I think you can see that to me they're a well-oiled machine, and I think that first leg result that could give Rangers an opportunity. You know,
Reagan, sorry, you mentioned both William brothers there. I thought, I said it to Mike earlier, I thought they both had a pretty poor night in terms of the standard I expect. I think I said it when the show just started there, they've only scored one goal at the last 3 games. I think the last 2 results were 2 draws. I thought both William brothers in particular, I think more Nico Williams, I think he played on the left. I thought he was really quiet tonight.
they didn't really get involved in the game and the bits I've seen. I was disappointed myself, but I'm sure they'll have a big impact on the rest of the tie if Bilbao have got anything to go through next week. But I'm just delighted that they've got through, and you know who I'm delighted for? I'm delighted for Liam Kelly because it was a big call, and you know for him to save that penalty must have been a big call for him. And I know Mike was laughing there, but it's a big night for him, you know, to save his feet. You know, and I did enjoy Conor McLaughlin after the game. She kept asking him the same. She asked him the same question twice about um, how did they manage to save the penalty. And I think it's great, Robbie, in terms of, you know, like he said to Connie, he didn't have much to do, but what he did do, he did very well. And I even thought the simple things like being able to come for crosses and that, he was very composed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the save for the corner, where they go to with both hands, I was sort of looking at that going, goalkeepers don't usually save a ball like that now. It's usually punch it away. But Kelly had a fantastic evening. I'm happy for him. I want to ask you guys, but Naismith was saying after the game on BBC that he thinks Kelly should be the new number one now, after that performance. Would you guys agree?
Well, to be honest with you, I tend to think that Naismith's quite a boring pundit, but he's going to come out there with a kind of a bold statement, you know, because I listen to him sometimes on the radio and that, and the television. He is quite boring to listen to and that, but that is quite a bold statement to say that he thinks that Kelly should be number one after one game. You know, as much as Michael says, I'm Liam Kelly's brother and that. No, my name isn't Kelly's, and I do like different type of ice cream, even though Kelly's ice cream is lovely. But I mean, I don't think he should be, Robbie. I mean, to say that he should be number one, I think we just take it game by game. Like James Tavernier said to Connie after the game, it's two really good goalkeepers, but I don't think we can say that's Kelly now for the end of time. He's doing well at the moment, but I think Stephen A. Smith's right in terms of it was a very good performance for what he had to do. But even Liam Kelly admitted himself, Robbie, he didn't have much to do.
Yeah, and but credit to Kelly though. I mean, everything he did have today, done it quite well. What I would say is I agree. I don't think he should be number one for the end of time. We know how good Butland can be, but certainly in the near future, there's absolutely no reason why Kelly shouldn't start the next 2 or 3 games. I think he's earned that opportunity.
I think the reason why he's saying that, I think the reason why Naismith is saying that, is because of the penalty save. I mean, if the Rangers gig it if Bal never had a penalty and he never saved it, I don't think he would say that.
Although what I'd argue that based on the way the game went beforehand, I think the saves that Kelly made in the first half probably warranted him maybe getting a start against Aberdeen. After the first half, I was going, yeah, Kelly should be the starter against Aberdeen. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But it was also nice to see Barry Ferguson pre-game stick up for Butland and say, I still believe in Jack, but I need to make the harsh decisions, which he said in media before that it needs to be harsh. But to me, there's no reason why it shouldn't be picking Kelly on Sunday.
I think you've got to stick by Jack, Liam Kelly now, Reagan, because obviously you play Aberdeen away and then you're away to Bears, Bilbao next week. So it's a quick kind of like turnaround. And if you swap the goalkeepers again and bring Jack Butland in, what happens if you go up to Aberdeen and make a mistake as well? And the confidence is back to zero again. And then you change it and bring Liam Kelly in. So I think for me, I think you've got to stick by Liam Kelly until after that first night and see what happens.
Michael, but also as well, I don't think that just because Liam Kelly did well tonight that he should be nailed on. I like the response that Robbie talked about there. I didn't hear Barry saying that, but that's great to hear he said that because, as I said earlier in the show, I mean, the big thing that you don't want to do is you don't want players to feel left out now because you've dropped Jack Butland, but I was glad to see him run over to Kelly at the end of the game and high five him and hug him and all that. I was glad to see that because it shows a good leadership as well. And I've never been a goalie, right? But you know, from watching football all the time, goalkeepers are kind of separate sport, and you kind of see I think when you watch the training of any team like St Mirren training or Celtic or whatever, you always see the goalkeepers working away themselves and doing their own things, and they must be a tight-knit group now, especially with Alan McGregor as well. So it's a tough choice, and I'm sure Alan McGregor's had some input to both goalkeepers as well. And I'm glad, and I don't think Robbie, that Jack Butland's a kind of player that I wouldn't say throw the toys at the pram, but I don't think he's a player to get angry either, because he knows he's been really bad for the past few months. So it's not as if you can say to Barry, well, I feel hard done by, because there's been so many high profile errors. Even somebody, Alan McGregor, former teammate Andy Halliday, was saying the other day that he believes that Jack Butland should be sold in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I think Alan McGregor will probably be number one for telling Barry and the rest of the coaches who he thinks should start, because he is the one that works up close with them every day, kind of thing. So I think that gives Barry Ferguson a good reason to start Kelly. I think you're right. Jack Butland won't be a keeper that is going to complain about no playing. If he gets dropped, because he knows himself he's not been good enough. But if Barry Ferguson now turns to Sunday and goes, right, we're going to play Jack Butland in this game, what does that say about Liam? What should Liam Kelly be thinking at that point? He's earned this opportunity to play Rangers number one for the night. He's done superbly, saved a penalty, made a good couple of saves in the first half, and then you go and drop him again for Sunday. And I know you can fire back the point, oh, he might just be saving him for next Thursday. I get that, but Liam Kelly will now be thinking about this and going, I want a good run in this team now. I don't want to be sitting out on the weekend and then playing on the Thursday again. I want to be playing in every match going forward until the end of the season, which obviously, look, it might not happen. Obviously, he will want to put Butland back in at some point, but Liam Kelly himself has got to be thinking, I want to get a
I
role
know
and
that.
I want to go in this team.
I know that I said earlier, Robbie, that Naismith's a pretty boring pundit, but you know that mantra that they come out with on the telly, and they say, "Oh, well, it's a great headache for Barry," but it actually is a good headache, because it then makes him think, well, do a stick or do a twist? So then he's got that mindset now of what do I do? But I'm sure that's up for debate, because if Liam Kelly, if he didn't save that penalty, then you would kind of go, well, he didn't really have much to do, but he saved a goal scoring chance. I mean, that could have turned the whole complexion of the tie. I've got full belief next week, guys, that we could be on this show and Rangers could be through, because how many times have you seen them go away to Braga, go away to Benfica, go away to even Dortmund? I know it was in a half-empty crowd during COVID, but it was still when we were opening back up and there was a decent crowd in there. And then you've got obviously go
Went
away
away.
to Man. Yeah. Sorry, Rob. I was just going to say they went away to Man U. So there's been a lot of good moments for them. So I wouldn't be surprised next week if we come on and said the semi-final next week will be Rangers and Man United, because Man United beat drew with Leon tonight 2-2. So me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we come on here next Thursday and we say the semi-final is between Rangers and Manchester United.
I think as well, Reagan, to answer both of your points there, Reagan, you say about the goalkeeper. I would say it's a very specialised position, and you don't see many managers being the goalkeepers. I know that Tommy Wright was a goalkeeper, and I
It's
think
a
that's
great
on.
word you used, a great word, specialised position, because it is and the only guy I can remember it is, I remember them saying on TNT the other day, Nuno Espirito Santo, the guy for Nottingham, the manager for Nottingham Forest.
On the force,
Do you know, heard the wee stat that he was one of the goalkeepers when Celtic played Porto in the final?
right,
He,
okay.
he
But
played for Jose Mourinho, aye.
but I was just going to say on Robbie's point that you made as well. You were saying about if Jack Butland would be, sorry, if Liam Kelly would be a bit disappointed if Jack Butlinson goes on Sunday. For me, guys, obviously I'm not Barry Ferguson and I don't get paid the big bucks, but for me, because Liam Kelly saved that penalty tonight and they may get a couple of other saves in the game, I think it's his jersey to lose now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it is his jersey to lose. I don't, I can't even remember the last time Rangers kept a clean sheet in a game. Recently, I mean that tells it all you need to know. He's stopped a moment that inevitably changes the game. And before that as well, a lot of people look at it, and obviously I think the big decision does come down to a penalty. But I look at his overall game in the first half. I look at a keeper that was confident, would come out for the ball, he'd catch the ball. That to me screams everything the opposite of what we've seen out of Jack Butland the last few weeks. I don't think we've seen a confident keeper that will come out and catch the ball and make saves. I think we've seen the polar opposite. So for me, it's only right that Liam Kelly should start on Sunday, and if he does, drop him, pick Butland again, and I think Kelly has every reason to ask why, because we speak about goalkeeping being the hardest position. It's the hardest position to break into as well. And when somebody breaks in, puts in a good performance, like the rest of the team, if a striker's scoring goals, he wants to be playing every game. It's the same. It's the exact same with a goalkeeper. If a goalkeeper puts in a good performance and keeps a clean sheet and makes some good saves, he should play the next game.
I think that's a good point you made, Robin, because what more can Liam Kelly do? But I don't know. I've just got something in me tells me Jack Butland might be a big save next because he's so used to these big European nights. But I tell you what it also is good for, Michael. It's also good for Scotland because Liam Kelly could be the saviour. Because I've been a big advocate of Craig Gordon, but Craig Gordon's 42 now, so I mean we need to be looking to the future.
I think as well, Regan, not to play devil's advocate with you, but I think if we were talking about Scotland tonight, I would say, you're right in that point, but I think we've got more issues than a goalkeeper at Scotland.
I would agree with you, but I think the goalkeeping issue is a big one because I've not seen much of the Ipswich guy either. But I mean, Liam Kelly put in a great performance, and I mean, there must have been a reason why he was at the Euros as well. I mean, surely he's not just there to play a game of King and Jack with the guys at dinner time. He's got to be there for a reason, and I'm sure that he definitely could be somebody that Steve Clark would look at for the future.
I mean, good. Yeah, I mean, just kind of moving on tonight. I thought it was a good kind of team performance from kind of Rangers as well. Obviously, Reagan before his Sky kicked the show. Bailey Rice Kelly got injured, and maybe that was quite 12 minutes with Aggie gone. And I know time with Aggie going for the penalty goal, free kick, offside, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I thought he played well tonight for Rangers.
Yeah, he was really good. I was impressed with his work rate. He was good in the ball, but it was a pretty bad elbow to his face, Robbie. Pretty bad.
Yeah, he looked in a lot of pain. Obviously, when he was getting stretchered off, a really good reception for Rangers and Athletic Club fans, by the way. Super respectful. But Regan, I think you're spot on. Honestly, I looked at that midfield, Raskin and Rice. That to me is the future for Rangers. That's what they should be building. That to me screams a midfield pairing. Sorry, that absolutely.
Do you know, Robbie? I was thinking. What, this is bad here, but I'm actually thinking about Michael during the game, and I was thinking, Michael. Nice. Michael talks about the young players through Scotland. We could have a potential midfield in Scotland of Bailey Rice and Lennon Miller, two guys that played with each other for years at Motherwell. We could genuinely have really two good talents in midfield.
Yeah, and you could have. Sorry, Mike. You could have Lyle Cameron playing in front of the both of them as well.
Yeah, and that's why, guys. I'll let you back in a minute, Robbie. But that was why I keep going on about it, and I might think that an old man and I know an old record, but there's actually a point that I'm making behind that because I think can't remember who it was. I was a manager at the weekend. In fact, I think it was Barry Ferguson actually talking about Bailey Rice. And he was saying, well, if you actually thrown players like Bailey Rice, other Scottish players, because the Rangers team or the Celtic team or the Hibs team, they've got no fear. Whereas if you put in a senior player that's been there for years, they are kind of like a bit hesitant. Like when they go for a 50-50 ball, they kind of draw out that tackle. Whereas if a better right was there or somebody like that, they will go in full force because I think for me, Reagan, that if you put in a young guy, a young kid in that team, they've got no fear, but also they know that they've only got one chance. And if they don't take that one chance, they might never get a chance. So it's basically their kind of cup final, if you know what I mean.
Aye, and there's no better place to make your name than European football. I mean, how many young players have we seen over the years? I know Michael's younger than us too, but you look back at like time before like Michael Owen and people like that. Michael Owen made his name young for Liverpool. People like Bale. I remember watching Bale in like 2011, 2012 when I was just watching football and I was obsessed with it and he actually remember that run against Maicon? I mean, when he just beat him up as if he wasn't even there. You know, it's these young talents that you look forward to seeing. You can even go to Tierney at Celtic. I mean, these are the talents that you want to see on a regular basis. And
But I think that the point that you were trying to make there, Reagan, is, and I don't know about Robbie here, but I think that they either like you were watching like Mike Owen, maybe like Paul Scholes, Man United, Fergus teams and all that. You've got to remember that was before the big boys came in and bought you know stole players away from these teams because as I keep saying to you as well that money talks in football and back in the 90s you would never have heard of that. But now we've got big sponsorship deals and the kind of like TV sponsorships and all that. It's a business now, Robbie.
aye,
Yeah, I mean, I'm young. When I started watching football, I've not really got to see the sort of Michael Owens and etc. But breakthrough in European football. But I'm looking at it at my own club now, and I'm seeing guys like Fraser Taylor break through in European football. This is a guy that is getting assists for St Mirren and arguably a biggest match in 40
who's the
years.
other guy that done well against Rangers in Paisley? Is it Ethan Mooney? Ethan Mooney?
Evan Mooney, yeah.
I like him. He looks to be a player. Is he Scottish? Rob, is he Scottish?
He's homegrown, yeah.
He could be a player for us.
I've got Evan Mooney, we've got Fraser Taylor, who's also homegrown. We just sent Dylan Reid off, who's also homegrown, into Crystal Palace. I seen he actually scored a winner for the under-21s against Man City. He's getting a few eyes on him now. So
he was like with Celtic, that David Reid for a while. Was it David Reid?
Dylan Reid, yeah, he was linked.
See that going back to the VR incident tonight, right? And I'll speak a bit more about this tomorrow as well. But I was at the Murrow press conference today, right? And Michael Vimmer was interesting because they were asking all the managers about the VR because of Alan Muir lost his job this week, and obviously that's another subject for tomorrow on the show. But Michael Vimmer said that when he was in, I think he was a manager of an Austria before I came over in Murrow. They never used VR in the game, and obviously, so he's coming from not having VR to having VR, but he said that he would scrap VR as well. Now, Robbie, I think the difference between watching Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts in Europe this season and when it goes to VR, it's quick decisions. But tonight, you actually saw the opposite. In fact, you would be mistaken if John Beaton or somebody was in the middle, because it took ages for the decision, because 1 minute it was a goal, and then it was offside, and then it was a penalty.
It was exactly like watching Scottish football. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Like, I watch a lot of English football and Premier League and Champions League, and when these decisions are getting made, usually they're just like that, and it's over. Obviously, we don't have the same VAR technology that maybe an England Premier League does, or Champions League. We have the very basics, which, by the way, I'm not using that as an excuse. It should be more than capable enough of making quick decisions, but it doesn't. But tonight it was very slow. Look, you could have done anything in the time frame it took to make some of these decisions. I would have just, it's times like this where that decision, obviously, where the goal gets chopped off and at least to the penalty. It's times like that where I wish it was like the NBA or the NFL, where the referees have mics and that's, you can hear what they're saying, because I'd love to know what the referee was thinking when he was checking when he was checking this stuff, or what the VAR team was saying when checking this sort of stuff. It would have been nice to actually hear what we were watching, because I think a lot of people would have been clueless. It first gets checked for the offside, then it gets checked for the penalty. But some people probably would have been looking at that going, "What is going on here?"
What's that about Reagan? About that's a stupid rule as well, that they only like to speak to the captain, because I know he was speaking to James Kavanagh, and because back in the day would speak to any of the outfield players. But what this rule about only speaking to the captain? It's a bit like rugby, because is rugby not the same in terms of they only like to speak to the captains? They can't speak to any of the other players.
I think they're just doing that so that there's no a kind of a Ferrari or a fight or whatever. They just try and speak to one player for each team just to try and calm things down. Robbie, I don't know if you agree, but I think sometimes VAR's looking for things. I think if they need to spend longer than 2 minutes to look at a decision, I watched. I know I probably shouldn't have because I've nothing to play for, but I put myself through uh, Spurs and Southampton at the weekend, Robbie, and they checked for an offside goal, and they checked about 5 minutes for an offside goal, and you were thinking, if it's that much offside, can you not just award the goal instead of checking for 5 minutes to see if it's offside or onside? Because what you're doing then is you're making the players' legs cold as well, and it's making it worse for everybody there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you probably just award the goal, or you just make
I
it a
know,
try
I
instead of
know.
instead of dragging it on.
Also, before Robbie answers that one, right, I want to jump in and say that not only letting the players' legs cold and all that, right, and also the fans, but also the fans don't know what's happening.
Yeah, exactly why I said it about having the referees with mics. I watch quite a lot of American sport, and you see it all over there. The referees, the VAR on some of the sports over there, are quick to the decision. They have mics, so they're telling you exactly what's going on as it's happening. I don't know if anybody's seen that Ballers League that's happening every week, but even the referees have mics as well, and you can hear what they're saying.
Yeah, I watched it. Mate. Angry Ginge.
Yeah, that's that's a perfect example of the way it should be in football. We should have quick decisions. The referees in the ball league today have quick decisions, and they also speak to the fans and tell them what's going on. Why can we not have that in our game? Why should we, as fans, be left to wait 5, 6, 7 minutes for a decision just to not know what's going on during the time? It makes the players cold, and I always go back to the point about was it the World Cup or the Euros where they had the rule that every time the ball went out of play, they added time on at the end. That was quite an interesting strategy, but it almost feels like we're having that here. With the amount of time it's taking to make these decisions, we're getting these 10, 11, 12 minutes added on at the end of matches.
Well,
I want to ask
sorry.
you guys something that Alan McCoy was talking about during the game, and it was that basically in European competition they don't use the concussion sub. No, if they're going to use it in major leagues, then why don't they use it in the major competitions like the the Europa League or the Champions League. I don't get it.
I never knew they never used them in the European competitions. Actually, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's what they were saying tonight because Alan McCoy thought that Rangers would get an extra sub because Bailey Rice got injured, and Rory said no, they don't use it in UEFA competitions.
By the way, see, just come back to. I'm not ignoring your point, Reagan. Just ignore you. No, I'm only kidding. But going back to Robert's point that you make, that's a good point, right? Because I don't want to harp on about the VRs again tonight, right? But if you were around just fan out of that game, you wouldn't have a Scooby Doo of what's going on. So, like, you're dependent on your pal or your wife or whoever watching the game in the house or the pub to text you to tell you what's happened, because they'll not have a clue about what, because they wouldn't have saw that the potential offside or the potential handball.
Yeah, I mean, so just I mean, like say when I go to the football and you go to someone and it's got a VAR decision. I mean, we don't even get, there's a board right in the right hand side corner next to the away stand at someone that's got VAR on it. It doesn't, even the stadium announcer sometimes doesn't know what it's being checked for. It's very, it's there's a lot of uncommunication going about. Sometimes in these games, it's just nice for fans to have a clue. You're sitting there waiting 5 minutes or whatever it is for a decision that you don't know what's being checked. They eventually come up with it, but at the time you're sitting there going, "What am I? What are we waiting for?" Kind of thing.
Right, Regan, back to your point about the concussion sub. I didn't know about that either. That was the first time I kind of knew about that. But I think that's a bit of a stupid rule, because it doesn't matter if you're playing league football, European football, or cup final. It's still football, isn't it? It's
Exactly,
still
that's my point.
so why are they bending not bending the rules, but changing the rules only for European football?
Exactly. I mean, I just don't understand why they can't just introduce him, because I've got it in Spanish football and the Premier League as well, because I've seen it used a few times there. So I just don't understand why they can't just use it in Europe.
So
Because
Robbie's been listening to Barry Ferguson after the game, so this is what he had to say.
Yeah, so first of all, Ferguson said Bailey Rice is all right. He's been up and walking. John Sterling will be sent for a scan first thing. We just need to wait and see. We're having a travel up to Aberdeen Saturday, so I just need to see what kind of numbers. He also said on the game it was a bit chaotic, meaning the sending off. I can see why the referee gave a red card, but at that stage you need to shuffle the pack. I had to play a way I didn't necessarily want to. Some people had to put in a real shift, and they did. There was a real togetherness, and I keep saying to them I need to see that every week.
There you go. Thanks, Robbie. Brennan is up to date with Barry's comments there. It was quite fair, that what Barry said there, Reagan.
it's just common sense, Mike. I mean, Sterling would be a big blow for them not to travel up to Aberdeen, because he's an important player for them. But hopefully, John Suter's back for next Thursday, I'm sure. So that's a blow that Sterling possibly could be out. But I mean, Sterling and Suter and Balogun would be a good pairing for next Thursday, because I've got to say I'm not a big fan of Proper. I don't think he's ever really impressed me. I did begin to laugh when Jack Butland knocked him right out of the game against Fenerbahce, because it probably eventually helped Rangers to win the game. But I think in terms of the squad, I think Barry's right. They need to get more of the squad, because how can they do performances like this and then get beat by Hibs? It was like I said earlier, it's because of the foreign players they have in the squad. They go, who's Hibs? But it's because they go and they play Athletic Bilbao and they go, right, well, I bet you the Spurs scout or maybe the Bayern scout is watching, so I'll put a better performance in, because maybe I'll get scouted somewhere else.
I
So it's
was
Yeah,
still,
having I was having a wee joke with Reagan before Robbie. I know you guys like on a Thursday night darts on Sky Sports, but I could see you watching football mid season on a Thursday night and turning over the darts because because even you said that before the game, Reagan. I mean, Rangers like to play at night time, but when they play at 3 o'clock on the Saturday or 12 o'clock on the Sunday, they nine games out of 10 they either drop points or get beat.
aye, it's no been a good watch. I mean, talking about the darts, Robbie, did you see Price hit a 9 darter?
I did see that. Aye, it was a very good night.
Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I mean, talking about the football, Michael, I mean, in terms of Rangers, it's just about more trying to get more be of a level every single week and making sure the players can rise to the occasion because they'll know fine well that this Aberdeen match is a big match for them. And the Aberdeen fans, they always there's a kind of rivalry there that they don't enjoy. They enjoy Rangers coming up and they enjoy beating them. The only Celtic game I've missed actually is Celtic versus Dundee because Rangers were playing Aberdeen that night. Remember I said to you,
Mm.
and I decided to stay in the house and watch that game because
Yeah,
because at that point Aberdeen were ready to go 9 points ahead of Rangers. So that was a cracking game. So that'll be the last time we've seen Aberdeen versus Rangers. So we always know that that's a fierce game. So but it's all about Rangers trying to back up what they done tonight.
well,
And there's
very
no
good. So I was just going to say it's interesting you say that because Barry also said it'll probably need to be a fully changed team because there are a lot of guys carrying knocks. There were a couple of guys asked to go out and play for me tonight and they did that. So it's going to be a heavily rotated Rangers team on Sunday.
Well, I was just going to say this to you guys. Obviously, the brilliant result tonight for Rangers. No. Okay, they never won, but I mean, they were up against one of the favourites for the Europa League. And you mentioned their own Robbie about Liam Kelly being goals or Jack Butland as well. But I mean, I was just going to ask you guys, and obviously Barry Ferguson has no choice about changing the team the team for Sunday. But I mean, I think if everybody was fit, I think he would stick with the same team for Sunday, and then you might think he makes subs towards the end of the game. Because I don't think he can afford to change it too much. Well, obviously it's all different now, isn't it? But he couldn't afford to change it because the next game he's away to Bilbao and a few days time after the Aberdeen Reagan.
I haven't. I think it's interesting because no disrespect, but if Rangers were playing like a Dundee or a St Johnstone at home,
Ross County.
it would be Ross County. It would be a totally different complexion. But because Rangers and Aberdeen fans don't really like each other, there's a kind of hatred there.
Yeah.
You know, they don't really see eye to eye. It's so I think even if like usually you can say, well, they could change the team, but that result matters to Rangers fans. But then,
Mhm.
from Barry's point of view, right, Celtic could be 16 points clear, plus about 30 odd goals. So then he's going up to Aberdeen, knowing that the league's totally finished with 6 matches to go. So then, no, this might be a defeated attitude, but he might say, so what? We're 16 points behind. That's a must win game on Thursday, and we need to do everything we can to win it. So
Uh,
it is a kind of toss of the coin, Robbie.
Aye, it sounds like with the comments though, Barry Ferguson said set on changing the team, which is interesting to me because I look at the starting 11 if Barry Ferguson's so insistent and his words were it's going to be a fully changed team. Well, he said that actually it needs to be a fully changed team. I'm looking at that bench and going, what is this Rangers team going to look like on Sunday?
Well, see, to be honest, Robbie, if Rangers fans want to be dancing about next Thursday, they might just need to put up with a second string team against Aberdeen. But this just might shows hopefully that the Rangers second team isn't as bad as we all think, because then they might prove to themselves, look, right, well, I've shown I've shown him that that this could potentially be a starting player. So we could say like it's a second string team. Yes, it could be, right, but these guys then, let's say it's Finlay Curtis or it's Ross McCausland or it's Danilo. Say that Danilo scores 2, Ross McCausland scores 1. Then that then gives Barry then a headache to go, right, well, I can trust these guys to throw them in and go, right, you need to go and show me. I need you. And they've proved it. So it's a catch-22, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the bench probably tonight, that I would guarantee you that maybe like 4, 5, maybe 6 of the players that's on the bench will start the game on Sunday, as in Danilo, Barron, Barami, and Igamani and McCausland.
Yeah, I'd say probably NCL and Jeffy will start the game as well. That is, I'd probably say that would be, but it wouldn't surprise me if Finlay Curtis played on Sunday. If Barry just flung him in and said, look, go and show what your medicine, because you're right, Regan. These are the players. A Finlay Curtis is, he's I believe he's a homegrown boy. He'll be looking playing in a Rangers shirt against a team that Rangers don't like very much. Just go out and get your all. What's the worst that can happen? If they lose the game, at least Barry can go, well, look, at least you gave me 110%, son.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose it's back to that point I was making, Regan, and I might make it before the end of the season about 10 more times. If you put youth in the team, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are waiting all year for their opportunity, so they're going to go in there and take it, and they're proving to Barry, look, if Barry shows me the opportunity, shows me the door that I can break through it, then they're going to try their best for him and do well. And I've got to be honest, guys. I like the honesty from Barry as well, because there's some managers that are quite closed over and they're quite guarded. But I think Barry's a kind of open book with the press. The only thing he probably doesn't tell you is who's injured or that, but everything else is quite open.
Yeah, just on the Athletic Club side, I know they play. I think they also play on this Sunday this week. They play Rayo Vallecano at home on Sunday at 8 o'clock. So, their manager's probably going to be thinking ahead of this game. I'm maybe need to make a few changes as well, because that's a game that, when Athletic Club are fighting for the top 4, they're not necessarily going to want to, they are Barry Ferguson, they're full change team, they're probably going to want to go.
Aye, they're not wanting to rest because they're not wanting to rest because they're in the top 4, and also I think it's last season they won the first trophy for over 60 years. So they'll be wanting to do it, like I said earlier, because they're in the home stadium for the final, and obviously because they've got a chance to go back to back and win trophies in back to back seasons. So I think Athletic Bilbao are what I call a well-oiled machine, and they've got 2 world-class players up front, the 2 brothers. So I think they've got a well-oiled machine, but I think it's a team that Rangers could really get at and try and do well against.
Not only that, Robbie, that they'll be desperate to meet that. Well, obviously they've got to beat Rangers first before they can think of the semi-final and the final. But I think this will be the first time in history on earth of the football that the finals at the home ground, and if they win it in the home ground as well, and I think that will go down in history. I think that will be a big incentive for the team and the fans as well.
Yeah, I mean they'll know. I feel like Valverde will be caught in two minds looking ahead to next week, because you've got the home game against Rayo Vallecano. They're still pushing for fourth right now. Then you need to focus on Europa League, as you said. The history's there to be made, but then they've got a away trip to Real Madrid as well on the Sunday. So this manager's got to be thinking this is a really big week for this club. That's 3 games right there that he'll know that if he can at least win 2 of them, the season's there to be made. But he'll know that the history is there. I think the players will know. I fully expect on Thursday next week that both Nico Williams and Inaki Williams will both be more up for this game in front of the home crowd. Again, I thought they were relatively quiet tonight. Obviously, we've not even touched on that chance yet. The ball gets played across. I think it was Inaki that played it across. I believe it was one of the centre mids had an open goal and he's hit it wide. I mean, I cannot believe they've not scored for that chance.
I mean, it was actually, it's one of these chances that you see in your old teammates at Midland or Celtic, Reagan, and you think, well, it's harder to miss than score.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Olasanya miss a couple of sitters this season. I mean, it's no fun when it happens. You look at it and it's not even when you first see it. See the more you watch it back and see if you watch that one back a few times, you actually look at it and you go, I cannot believe he's just missed it.
I think you made a good point there, Michael. That chance was harder to miss than score. But I think sometimes because of these European occasions, and I think, well, once again, we need to say that somehow Rangers seem to do it always on Thursday night. They always seem to turn up, they always seem to do well. And we've got to say, fair play to Rangers, because that's, even though it's a draw tonight, it's also another coefficient point, Robbie, on the Scottish coefficient. So that can only be good for us.
Every coefficient point helps. I mean, look, it's the most Rangers thing now that they're going to go and ship 3 to Aberdeen away from home on Sunday, probably. But no, look, it's another Rangers Thursday night performance. It's again, these players know how to put up with these big games. It's when it comes to these games on Sunday. Look, there's no doubt Aberdeen. I'm not saying it's not a big game, but in terms of the way the league's gone, it's not get as much relevance. So I think every Rangers player that starts will again look at this game and go, oh, it's all right. Well, we'll play Aberdeen and we'll show up and we'll get the win. But it's not going to be as easy as that. And look, it wouldn't surprise me if Rangers won, because again, the main issue seems to be Ibrox right now. They know how to do it away from home. Even if they're going 2-0 down or 3-1 down, in a few games they can get a job done. So it'll be interesting to see how they go this week. But the next week for both Rangers and Athletic Club is absolutely massive.
But I think as well, Reagan, and besides that, the last Celtic Rangers game when Rangers came in Celtic Park, beat them, and then the following was a defeat. Was that the Murrow game at Ibrox as well?
It was,
so basically, what I'm saying is tonight they got a good. Well, I say good result, but it was 0-0. But you know what I mean, a decent performance. But it's the same as at Johnson after beating Celtic last weekend up at McDermott Park. It's all right picking up points and beating big teams, but it's what you do after that game, and after the game tonight for Rangers is a difficult game against Aberdeen on Sunday. And I know that
I think the most important thing for Rangers on Sunday, it's not about performances, about somehow getting the 3 points, because even the most optimistic Rangers fan, they knew in probably Christmas time when they were 12 points behind, I think they knew probably deep down, even going into the January Rangers and Celtic match, Ibrox, Rangers were 14 points behind, and they won the game and they were still 11 points. Celtic were still 11 points ahead. So even though Rangers won that game, there was still a kind of insignificance about it.
But I mean, like, I know the league's over and all the rest of it, Robbie, but like, surely you've got to put in a performance because you're a professional football player.
Yeah, and it also can't get any worse. If Rangers increase the gap, to Celtic are more points ahead of them, then it only becomes more embarrassing for every Rangers fan out there and every Rangers player and Barry Ferguson himself. He'll know Barry. Let's not forget Barry Ferguson's a Rangers guy. This is almost like watching yourself play Football Manager and managing your own club. You care about every game, no matter where you're sitting in the league. You could be stranded mid-table with 2 games left, and you're like, I'm going to win both of these games. That's the way Barry will be thinking. He'll be looking at the rest of this season going, we need to win every single game we've got left. It's as simple as that.
I think also nowadays though, I think it was like see if you look at like years ago, Robbie, you had people like Stan Petrov and Bobby Peter, people like that like even nowadays they still do Celtic functions. But see back then they enjoyed the Scottish football nature. But it's because see back then like when they were playing proper players against Aberdeen and that. But nowadays it's like I, I don't know, but I just don't imagine. I don't imagine in 10 years' time Nico Raskin doing a Rangers supporters
No,
association dinner.
no,
In
but
front.
sorry, but I was just going to say, what you want is a living mentalities of Thomas Gravison, who used to play with Celtic. This guy, you've heard the stories. This guy was playing against Albion Rovers in the Cup, when they didn't need to. That's the kind of player that every manager dreams of having. That's a guy that will go out, no matter his quality level, and he'll go out and put in a good performance every week.
And who was the manager of Albion Rovers, Robbie?
I don't know.
Ferguson.
Ferguson. I never know.
Yeah. So but Rangers would keep it going, Regan. And because every game's a cup final, but this is a cup final in itself, like next week against Bilbao, and we always speak about the financial side of the game. And I will be welcome money to Rangers if they get through to the next round.
It will be, and I think also it strengthens Barry's hand in terms of saying to this ownership, look, I've got this club and its worst moment for years. There's no disputing that. Being 13 points behind Celtic. When, and I read a stat the other day, Robbie, Celtic have lost 6 matches in 2025 alone. So in 2024, Celtic lost 0 matches. In 2025, they've lost 6.
Yeah, every Rangers fan must be looking at that stat and going, how are we not even in with a chance of this title? Look, I know Celtic last year, and particularly the calendar year, were unstoppable at times. I'm looking at a Celtic team this year, which we'll touch on it more tomorrow on the show, but this calendar year's not been a vintage Celtic for me. This has been a very flat Celtic that's, I don't want to say lost confidence, but they've maybe just lost a bit of that fighting spirit because they are so far ahead. Rangers, every Rangers fan, and Barry Ferguson, the players will be kicking themselves that they're not in a title race right now.
I think just to finish up, guys, on Barry Ferguson, and everybody knows in the whole wide world, and if you don't know, well, you must not be on planet Earth, but Barry Ferguson's a big Rangers man, and I would compare that to Neil Lennon at Celtic. Reagan is a big Celtic man, but when people comes out with that statement, Robbie made the statement there, and I agree with you. Like Barry Ferguson is blue and white all the way through his body, basically, but that's not going to guarantee you a cup or is it? You know what I mean? Like you've got to work away at it, and I think
Yeah, I
Barry
mean the best.
Ferguson is doing that. And also, what I will say is Reagan before that, yeah. But what I was going to say is it shows passion as well.
He does, and he's been really good. I think. I think that's sometimes what the players need because I think Clement was probably too soft. And from what I gather, from talking to people,
Well, we're from Belgium, chocolate.
aye, from what I gather, from talking to folk as well, was he didn't really like his assistants really to get involved. He was the kind of main person.
I
But
saw one of his assistants back tonight on the TV.
yep, Ali Ray.
I think he was wanting his job back.
Yep. He was,
Sorry, I was just that's been the last few Rangers. I look back. You've got Clement, Giovanni, Michael Beale. That's all Rangers managers to me that just didn't get it. They did not get it. And look, I know Beale had the success with Gerrard, but that's the last time I can look at a Rangers team and a Rangers manager and go, he got it. You know, Gerrard got what it meant to be a Rangers manager. He got the passion. You know, he had it enough in his playing career at Liverpool. He knew what it meant to play for a club, and particularly when he was managing Rangers, he knew what it meant to manage a club as well at that stature. So, you know, I look at the managers after Steven Gerrard left, and I look at them and I go, right, I don't think Giovanni fully got it as a manager. I don't think Michael Beale had a clue respectfully as a manager what he was doing. And then I look at Philippe Clement. I thought he was a bit soft on the touch as well. So to me, this is exactly what Rangers needed for the players and the fans.
and what
I think I would slightly disagree with you, Robbie. There, I think if Giovanni did get it because it was a brilliant player for Rangers, but again, he didn't really have a team on the park. So you know.
Yeah, that was probably a bit. I probably used the wrong word on Giovanni because again, I look back at that and I don't think they should have sacked him. But to me, I just don't think Giovanni worked managerial wise in the end. I think once some of the fans had turned on Giovanni, which again, whether that was a wrong or right decision, you know, that's for the Rangers fans. I think after that point, you started to see a few slip ups for himself as a manager. You know, he looked a bit nervous at the time, and you can really see his time coming in. Whereas I look at Ferguson, and Ferguson's just a brutally open, honest guy, and he knows that, you know, he knows that it's not good enough. He's been publicly very open that it's not good enough, and I think going forward, whether he gets a job or not, I think that's what Rangers need to go for. You know, don't go and venture out in a European guy. Get a guy that either knows Scottish football or knows what it means to be a Rangers man.
And I think you made a good point there, Robbie, because you look at Scottish football in general, right? And you look back over the past 12 to 15 years, right? Look at every manager that's won a league, right? Apart from Ange Postecoglou, they've all been British managers or English managers. And I think there is a kind of relevance to it to go, right? Well, the managers apart from Ange, everyone is English or of reside on Irish or British Isles. So there's obviously something in it. You know what I mean, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, you only need to look at, you know, even just outside the Rangers and Celtic, you look at teams that have won the Cup. St Johnstone won the Cup double with a Scottish Callum Davidson. He knew what it meant. Hibs won the Cup years ago with Alan Stubbs. He knew what it meant at the time. You know, there's managers all over Scotland that get it. You know, Stephen Robinson at us, although he's, you know, he's not exactly won it at us, but at Motherwell we go to 2 cup finals, 3rd place with a Motherwell team. He got what it meant. You know, I think Scottish clubs are too stubborn and maybe try to go abroad. You know, try to be different. Just stick to it. You know, you cannot go wrong with a Scottish manager, or, you know, an English manager, you know, anyone that's, you know, that gets this game. That's how success comes. You only need to look at David Gray at Hibs. You know, Hibs have stuck by a guy that gets the club, and look where he's getting them. Now he's going to get them to a 3rd place finish.
There you go. Stick to what you know. Well done, Robbie. Stick to what you know. The locker room. There you go. We'll be back tomorrow night for the preview show for the weekend, and also we'll be back on Sunday. A busy week next week as well. Second leg of the Babal Rangers game, and the Scottish Cup weekend as well. So that's got all your comments. So that's got everybody that's watching. So that's got Reagan. So that's got Robbie. And we will be back tomorrow night live at 5 for the weekend preview. So at Finish Committee Ibrox, Alfredo Bilbao, Mill Rangers. Now was the second leg could come next week. So we'll see you soon.
All the build-up and reaction to Scotland in the Nations League.
All the build-up and reaction to Rangers in the Europa League on Independence Live.